Hey, community, I have a cough. It's because I have a toothache. Tell somebody you love them, walk in the aisle with a smile, and keep Buddha in your heart. And I want you to meet my new best friend. Margaret, please introduce yourself.
Dorothea, it's so glad to be here with you today, and it's so nice to meet you now as a friend. You're going to be a friend forever, but my name is Magaret Vinci. I'm the manager of the Office of Earthquake Programs at CalTECH. I'm also part of the Pasadena Fire Department Disaster Advisory Council. I'm the Map Your Neighborhood coordinator, and I'm also one of the regional coordinators for Earthquake Country Alliance that does a shakeout drill.
That's good. We're going to teach you some things today that you've not heard of before. Margaret, may I have a bottle of water?
Well, I would give you one, but they're empty.
Oh.
This is a display to show people how much water you need to have during a disaster. So with any disaster we've had recently, think of the hurricanes, think of the mudslides, not just earthquake. I'm from CalTECH, I work in the seismological laboratory, but it isn't just earthquakes that we have in Southern California. We are a multi-hazard state. And so when you think of those other disasters that we've had, those hurricanes, people standing in 7 feet of water, but no water to drink because the electricity was out, water plants were not pumping the water, and so there was no water going to the households. So with any disaster, people have to have water, at least 1 gallon per person per day for 7 to 10 days, if not 3 to 4 weeks or longer. This represents enough water for one person for 2 weeks. And so this is how much water you need to have. It's 5 cases of bottled water. You can also store water in, there's a new blue can that's 50 years. This is pressurized water. This you need 6 cases of water. And so, but you need to have water. You can also store it in blue bins. They're blue plastic 55-gallon, 25, 35-gallon bins, and those last for 5 years. Fill them up. 5 years, you water the plants, fill them up again, stick that in a cool place, and you've got that 55-gallon drums of water. But water is the key essential for an earthquake. You can live without food, you cannot live without water. After 3 days of no water, you're not here anymore. So water is one of the most important things that people need to have in their disaster supplies to be able to survive. And in a disaster, it's all about survivability. It's not about not being here anymore, it's more about surviving that disaster. So the better you are prepared, the better your survivability. If you have water, you're not going to be thirsty. If you have a fire extinguisher, you're going to be able to put out small fires before they become large ones, and we don't have a conflagration with that. In an earthquake, the biggest damage is from buildings that fall down and from fires, electrical wires falling into bushes, as well as broken gas mains. And so those are the 2 big damages that are created from an earthquake, is fire and buildings. So people need to have a fire extinguisher and know how to use it. And so you want to have a 3-in-1. You want to be able to put out electrical fires, wood fires, and chemical fires. And so you can grab that fire extinguisher and put out a small fire before it becomes a large conflagration. The other thing that you need to have is you need to have your supplies. So in any earthquake, if people remember the Northridge earthquake, that was our last damaging earthquake in 1994. It was a magnitude 6.7 earthquake in 1994, our last damaging one. And one of the biggest injuries in that earthquake was people jumping out of bed in the middle of the night and walking on glass. So underneath your bed, you need to have a bag. So those bags that we now need to take to the grocery store, you can take one of those. You want to be able to have handles so you can tie it to the bed, because in an earthquake, things are going to be across the room and you're not going to be able to get to them anymore. In there, you need to have, number 1, you want to have hard-soled shoes. Shoes to put under the bed, tie them to the underside of the bed so they don't walk away. In one shoe, you're going to put extra batteries. In the other shoe, you're going to put a flashlight, because the other thing you need to have is a source of light. So besides shoes, you also need to have your flashlight. Or you can have a miner's light on a hard hat. So a hard hat will protect you from falling objects. You also can have the miner's light. It will last a lot longer. They're LED lights that last a lot longer than batteries. Also, your hands are free. So now you're not hanging onto a flashlight. You have hands free that you can then lift heavy objects to get out of the room if things are blocking your exit, or if you need to help people that have been injured. And so you want to have your hard hat. The other thing that you need to have is you want to have your gloves. So the second injury in the earthquake was actually being able to have cut hands. So moving objects that had glass on them. So you want to have gloves under the bed so that you don't have cut hands. The other important thing is a crowbar. So in an earthquake, that building will twist and turn, the doors get jammed, and you can't get out. You can also break windows if you need to be able to get out if they're not broken already, or to clear away jagged edged glass so you don't get cut crawling out of that window. But you want to have a crowbar underneath there. The other important thing to have under the bed is clothes. So in an earthquake, think about what you go to bed in. You don't want to be living in that for the next 2 or 3 weeks, so you want to have clothes under the bed that you can grab, you can put those on. It's also the first thing you want to do after an earthquake. You want to put on protective clothing. Why? Because you don't want to get cut and injured as you walk through the house looking to make sure that anybody is injured in the house, turning off the gas. You want to have on your protective clothing. So it's one of the first things you're going to do is put on that protective clothing. So this is what you need to keep under the bed. So number 1, you need to have water. Number 2, you need to have hard-soled shoes and gloves and a hard hat and a source of light, a flashlight or a miner's light, to be able to have that underneath your bed, and you tie that to the underside of the bed. Many beds are very low, you can't get things under them. So with mine, I tie it between my headboard and my nightstand, and I tie this and leave that there. So this is actually what I keep under my bed. The other important thing you need to have is a wrench to be able to turn off your gas. So one of the first things you do after that earthquake is you're going to put on protective clothing. You're going to then check for injuries in your household. You'll then go and check see if you have leaking gas. And so leaking gas, you can either hear it, you can smell it, and if you don't know if you can depend on that, you want to know how your gears are turning on your meter now. So what is normal for you? If those gears are turning out of control, then you're losing gas, and you want to turn it off. So with that gas meter, there is a valve that is usually, if you've got your gas meter here, that valve is going to be straight up and down because the glass is flowing. What you want to do is then turn it a quarter way, that it then blocks that gas and the gas is not leaking. Gas is the one source with a broken pipe that you would have a fire or an explosion in the house. If you don't smell gas, you don't think it's leaking, then you don't want to turn it off. It could be days or weeks before the gas company turns it back on. And the gas company has to be the one that turns that gas back on, because there's many things they have to check for first. The other thing you want to have is you want to have a to-go bag. So you want to have a bag that is going to be in your car. You have one at work, one in your car, and one at home. And you want to keep it in a place that you can grab it easily and you can go. So once you have checked for injuries, you put on your protective clothing, you've checked for leaking gas. Now if you leave your home, you want to be able to have your supplies, your main supplies. And in this, you're going to have everything you need for every day. So you're going to have medications. You're going to have an extra pair of eyeglasses. Anything you use on a regular basis, every single day, you're going to have in your to-go bag. You're going to have your food. You're going to have your hygiene items. So your toothpaste, your toothbrush, your hairbrush, your deodorant, anything you use on a daily basis, you just put it in a baggie. Any kit that you buy, they're only starter kits. You need to then go and put anything personal to you. You want to put into a baggie, so you have your washcloth, you have your makeup, you have everything you use on a daily basis. So there again, your survivability after that disaster is going to be a lot easier because you have your supplies. The other thing you want to have is cash. $1 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills. So that way, because with a disaster, electricity is out, you can't use your ATM. And so you can't get money out. You don't want to be paying $20 for something that costs $1 or $2. So you want to have cash. You also want to have written down your emergency contacts. In a disaster, many times cell phones are not available. They will not be working, especially with an earthquake. The towers are not secured. They also only have 4 hours of backup battery. And so once those cell phones, you can't use them anymore, you need to have your important emergency information written down so you can then get a hold of your doctors. You can get a hold of your friends and your family. In a disaster, people forget their address, let alone their phone numbers. And so you want to write all of that down so that if you do find a means of communication, then you're able to communicate with those people. You also want to have an emergency contact out of the area. So you want to then communicate with your family through one person that lives out of your area. So somebody in San Francisco, somebody that lives in San Diego, that is your emergency contact for your family, and everybody communicates through that one person. And so that way, you are then able to survive. You also want to keep all your financial information written down so that if you don't have a house anymore, then you have a means of filling out the forms with FEMA that you can apply for aid, and you have all that information, and you can keep that with your emergency contact as well. You also want to have a first aid kit. Always have a first aid kit in your to-go bag, in your bag that's under the bed, and any of your supplies. Another important thing that you need to have is your whistle. And a whistle is extremely important no matter where you are. You want to keep one in your car, at home, keep it in different drawers of your house. Why? Because you can blow a whistle a lot longer than you can yell for help.
Help!
So, and especially in a disaster, your vocal cords get sore and you can't yell for help. So if you're trapped in your car, then you can blow the whistle as well. So keep it in the console. You also need to know how to respond in an earthquake. And when the earth starts to shake, what you want to do is immediately drop to the ground before the energy throws you off your feet. Crawl and get underneath something to protect you from falling objects. Hold on to whatever you're underneath because that table will walk away from you. And so you want to hold on to that object so that you are protected from those falling objects. If you are in a wheelchair, what you want to do is you want to set the brake on the wheelchair. You want to then bend over to protect your inner organs. Grab something, a pillow, anything to put over to cover your head. If you don't have something to grab, then you're going to put one hand over your neck, another hand over your head. Protect again from falling objects. If you are in bed, you're going to stay in bed. You're going
Put the pillow over your head.
Put the pillow over your head. Again, turn your stomach to the mattress so to protect your inner organs. Pull the covers up over yourself so that it protects you from the flying glass that's flying around. But make sure you have secured your items in the room so they don't end up in bed with you. The one person dying in the Napa earthquake about 3 years ago up north was somebody being hit in the head by their television. And so don't think that things aren't going to fly across the room and they will hit you. So you want to secure that television so it doesn't end up in bed with you. And so these are some of the major items that you need to have. You also want to have a goggles because in an earthquake it stirs up all the dust in the ground. It also has bacteria in it. And you don't want to be breathing that bacteria such as people did in the Northridge earthquake, and that was called valley fever. So they were getting sick from breathing that bacteria that's in the earth. And so you want to have a dust mask as well, and this will also work with fires and for other kinds of disasters also, to have those goggles, have that dust mask to be able to utilize that. And in your to-go bag, you also want to have duct tape. Duct tape comes into handy for many, many reasons of being able to tie up objects that might have fallen. You can use it for Band-Aids. You can use it to make a cup to drink your water out of. Many things that can be used for duct tape. And I actually have even pulled that out and used it for the fire department when they have needed it from time to time to put up a sign. So always have those important items. Have toilet paper. Toilet paper is essential. What goes in has to come out. So you want to, again, have toilet paper. And you also want to remember your pets. You want to have a kit for your pets. They need to have their own supplies. They need to have water. They need to have any medications, any food that they eat. They need to have a carrier that you can put them in so that they feel secure from that earthquake. Animals are walking on the ground. What's on the ground? Glass. So there are little booties you can put on dogs and cats so that they don't have cut feet as well, and have their toys, have copies of their immunization records, and a picture in case they do wander off, then you can identify that animal as well.
Where do you get all these supplies?
You can get them at various places. Most of these I've gotten at SOS. It's a survival store out in the valley, and it's called SOS Survival, and you can go online. Ready America is another one that has a great catalog that you can order things from as well. And remember that any kits that you buy are just starter kits. It's all about you putting in and adding to what you need personally to be able to survive that disaster.
Wow, I have no more questions, and I know you have a meeting tonight, and will you come again?
I will. The meeting I have tonight is actually, it's a Map Your Neighborhood training. And here in Pasadena, the Pasadena Fire Department, we offer Map Your Neighborhood training. Map Your Neighborhood is a training where we teach neighbor how to help neighbor. In any disaster, it's all about neighbors surviving together, working in their neighborhoods. Many times people don't want to leave their neighborhoods, and so it teaches you how to work in your neighborhood. So first of all, you identify 18 households that you can get to within the first hour. You're then going to talk about what you do immediately after that earthquake. You're going to then put a sign in your window when you leave your house to go to your identified gathering place in your neighborhood. You're going to put in that you're okay or that you need help, and that's the first place that the team will go to. You're also going to identify a gathering spot. So with that disaster, whether it was the windstorm that we had a few years ago or whether it's an earthquake, you check for injuries in your household, turn off your gas, and then what do? You also want to turn off the water to the house. If you turn off the water to the house, you're protecting your good water that's in your pipes, and you want to turn that off. Then what do? You stand on the front porch and say, now what do I do? This program then teaches you to work as neighbors. You identify a gathering spot that you'll all go to meet, and then you break up into teams. So you sit down, and the key to this program is neighbors talking together. It gets the neighbors to know one another. It gets to know them personally as to what their special needs might be. So people that might be elderly, people that have physical needs, children, animals that are in the neighborhood. And it lets the neighbors know who's going to need the help when a disaster occurs. So they sit and they talk in a circle, and they fill this out together. So every household has one. You're going to identify all of your assets. So who's first aid trained in the neighborhood, who's a ham radio, who's a plumber, who's an electrician, who has any kind of needs that you might be able to call on with that when a disaster hits. And so you already know those things. And everybody, believe it or not, has something to offer to their neighbors, even if it's a gathering spot, even if it's sitting and reading to the children and comforting them during that disaster. And so everybody has a special asset of some kind. You're also, again, to identify as a group, you identify the risks in your neighborhood. Do you have overhead wires? Do you live near an industrial site? Where's your big gas mains that run down the streets? Are you close to those? And you're going to talk about it as neighbors as you get to know one another. You're also going to draw a map of your neighborhood, and you're going to identify where everybody's gas turnoff is, everybody's water's turnoff is, how many people live there, if there's any animals. So if you're at work, there's somebody's going to feed your animals if you're stuck at work for 3 or 4 days and can't get home. And then everybody works as neighbors. So everybody has one of these in the neighborhood. It belongs to you. It doesn't go to anybody else. It is proprietary information for that neighborhood only. And so this is a program that helps neighbors to work together. We do trainings on this here in Pasadena, a minimum of 4 to 5 times a year. And we do personal ones for businesses and particular neighborhoods that want just their neighborhood. We'll do that as well. We provide you with the workbook and also with additional handouts and information on preparedness.
Well, I want to come. How do I find out how to come?
Well, I'm doing it tonight at CalTECH. I'm doing a meeting tonight, and then you can go to our website at cityofpasadena.net/fire/map-your-neighborhood, and it'll tell you when the other training sessions is, or you can call Lisa Derderian at the City of Pasadena Public Information Office, and she'll let you know where to get that information as well.
then we need to call and go to the next time. Meet me there. Can I come?
You can. I would love to have you come.
Okay, community. We're going to her, and we're calling who?
We're calling, well, they can either call Lisa Dedarian at City of Pasadena Public Information Office, or you can go to our website at cityofpasadena.net/fire/map your neighborhood.
So you know where to go, you know where to find it, and you'll meet me at the next meeting.
And all of Pasadena can get prepared for the next disaster.
Because it will come.
And you'll have peace of mind.
Yeah, and we'll be ready. I can see me now with my whistle. Whoa! I thank you. I know you must go.
Yes, I've got people waiting for me to be trained.
So, Pasadena, you've heard a little bit about what we should do, but we're going to meet with her at her next community meeting.
That would be great.
And we'll know each other, know where to find me and you. I thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, and anybody that wants to talk about earthquakes and why we have them and what our earthquake risk is and what will happen with a 7.8 earthquake, I'm happy to talk to them about that too.
Well, we'll ask you to come back again, and we can do that too. Thank you, community. I really, really appreciate learning on what to do in case there's an earthquake. Even in a wheelchair, I can be of some use, so thank you so much. And with that, we'll say, tell somebody you love them, walk in Baha'u'llah's smile, and keep Buddha in your heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dorothea.
You're very welcome. We really enjoyed it.